Hello and welcome to today's video. Today's video is for Advanced Geometry, Chapter 8, Section 2, Special Right Triangles. So this section we're going to talk about two special right triangles, the 45-45-90 and the 30-60-90. When we get to trig, there's going to be only two special triangles that you're going to have to know by hand, which means you're not going to be allowed to use a calculator, and these are them. So we want to make sure that we can work with these triangles so that when we're doing trig, we can find these exact answers. Okay, so here we have a way to derive the formula for a 45-45-90. So a 45-45-90 triangle is an isosceles right triangle in which the legs are congruent and then the hypotenuse. So what we can do is we can say, well, we know that the square of the sides added together must be the square of the hypotenuse. And then we can add these together and get 2x squared equals y squared. And then if we're solving for y, we can square root both sides. And since it can't be negative, we don't have to worry about plus or minus. So the square root of 2x squared equals y. And then we can simplify this. So the only thing we can bring out is the square root of x squared, which is x. And so we get x root 2 equals y. So what this tells us is whatever the legs are, then the hypotenuse is going to be root 2 times those legs. Okay. So here we have where we had it. In a 45-45-90 triangle, both legs are congruent, and the legs of the hypotenuse is root 2 times the leg of a length. So if we want to go from the hypotenuse back to a leg, we divide by root 2. If we want to go from a leg to the hypotenuse, we multiply by root 2. And dividing by root 2, we will have to rationalize that. So make sure all your answers are in simplified radical form. So a couple quick examples. Sorry, my symposium is still being touchy. So for this one, I have a leg. I want to go to the hypotenuse, so I just multiply by root 2. So h is 9 root 2. And for this one, I also know one of the legs. I need to multiply by root 2. So if I multiply 2 root 2 times another root 2, that's going to be root 4. And the square root of 4 is 2. So this is going to be 2 times 2. Which is 4. So the last example has us work our way backwards. Now we know the hypotenuse, we want to go backwards to a leg, so we have to divide by root 2, which means we have to rationalize. So that's going to be 6 root 2 over 2, which is going to be 3 root 2. So my answer is B. I like this problem because when we have the area of like rhombuses and stuff, it's kind of nice to know the diagonal. So for this one, a high school softball diamond is a square. The distance from the bases is 60 feet to the nearest foot. How far does the catcher have to throw the ball from home to second? So what we have here is these are congruent. We know these are right angles, so we have, because it's a square, so we know that this has to be a 45-45-90. So we're finding the hypotenuse. So this is going to be 60 times root 2. And then because it says to the nearest foot, we want to put this in our calculator. So if I take 60 times the square root of 2, to the nearest foot, I get 85 feet. So about 85 feet. One note is we're going to be doing a lot of things where we're going to be working with radicals and pies and things like that. You don't want to simplify it by putting it in your calculator until the very, very end. So make sure you work with the radicals, you rationalize, and then only at the end, if it says to round, then put it in your calculator. So the other one we have is a 30-60-90, and this one has a couple things. When we have a 30-60-90, we have what's called the short leg, which is across from the 30-degree angle. We have the long leg, which is across from the 60-degree angle, and we have the hypotenuse. So a 30-60-90 triangle, the length of the hypotenuse is twice the length of the shorter leg, and the length of the longer leg is root 3 times the length of the shorter leg. So if you notice, you can tie everything back to the shorter leg. The hypotenuse is twice it, and the long leg is root 3 times it. So if you want to go from the hypotenuse to the long leg, most of the time you want to go through the short leg. So if I wanted to go from the hypotenuse to the long leg, I would first divide by 2 to get back to the short leg, and then I would multiply by root 3 to get to the long leg. And if I wanted to go from the long leg to the hypotenuse, I would divide by root 3 to get back to the short leg, and then double it to get to the hypotenuse. So this proof we'll do in class, proof of theorem 8.6, to show you where those come from. And so for this one, finding the value of each side. So first I need to see what I'm given. I'm given the side that's across from the 60, so this is going to be the long leg. And so the easiest thing to do is go from long to short. So to go from long to short, we divide by root 3. Must rationalize, so root 3 over root 3. So this is going to be 5 root 3 over 3. So D is equal to 5 root 3. Oops. And then go from short to the hypotenuse, we double it. So F is just going to be twice the 5 root 3 over 3, so that's going to be 10 root 3 over 3. And we're done. So make sure that you know in a 45, 45, 90 how to go between the legs and the hypotenuse, and for 30, 60, 90 how to go between the legs and the hypotenuse. Okay? And that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.